Good evening, Lagos. Good evening, Nigeria. Welcome to the 25th episode of Find Your Voice on Your Space, a podcast where business leaders and career professionals share their stories on how they found their voice and are currently owning their spaces in their different spheres of influence. Last week, we had a very phenomenal conversation with a multi potentialite who has gained mastery and been able to juggle between being a corporate master of ceremonies, a DJ, a hype man, and of course a humanitarian. And it was just a very robust conversation. By the way, we are live on LinkedIn at Jadesola at Dewodun and on YouTube currently at Lady J Global. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube at Lady J Global. Make sure you like, you comment, and share because every conversation every Wednesday is a masterclass on its own. And you can go to the YouTube link to also check the entire playlist for the Find Your Voice and Own Your Space podcast. My name is Jade Sola Adewodun. I'm also known as Lady Jade Global, and I'm really elated to serve as the host for the Find Your Voice Own Your Space podcast. Now, today, we're taking a quick turn into corporate culture, and the gentleman that we'll have today, a really amazing human being. I mean, we met about a year ago at a TEDx talk, and I mean, we've been very familiar on LinkedIn, and just seeing how far he has grown and how far he has been able to carry on his vision is very admirable. And today, I believe that we'll be able to understand what it is like to have a sustainable company culture because, from experience, I have observed that people don't just resign from organizations, they resign from managers. I've also had my fair share of working with horrible bosses, and it also reminds me of the movie way back in the early 2000s of horrible bosses. I mean, for those of us that have seen that movie, you already understand the synopsis. But again, we are not here to talk about horrible bosses. We're here to understand that in as much as we have deadlines, KPIs for employees to deliver, we also need to understand that the culture drives the excellence of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me as I bring up on stage Toluwani Ogunbayode.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Lady J.
Hi, Toluwani. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a great day. It's been a really good day, and this even
Fantastic.
makes it better.
What did you say?
I said, and this even makes it better. So can't
It's
complain.
so it's so good to have you on the show, and I mean I'm really elated to have you here because um was it yesterday now? Okay, last week Saturday I was at an event. I was having a conversation with a product designer.
Hmm.
He also serves as a photographer
Okay.
for a particular startup, and we're talking about how a lot of new employees have had to resign because of the company culture of how one of the managing directors has a style that discourages new intakes from learning in such a way that if he needs to get some things done,
Hmm.
he'll rather focus on his favorites who have years of experience on their side than allow people that are just starting over to learn on the job because you'll be like, oh, you're wasting time and forgetting that this person that can do it in less than 24 hours has 11 years on their
Correct.
side of making mistakes, of allowing people, of making their mistakes over and over again.
So,
For this person, it's probably like 6 months or a year or 2 years in, they're still in that refining process. And he
yeah.
and he made a statement that we keep losing really good guys. And he told him, he was like, in no distant time, if he gets a better offer, he's gonna leave.
Mm.
And it breaks the sense of loyalty. I mean, growing up, our parents stayed 10, 20 years,
30, 30, 35.
30 years in organizations.
Yeah.
But now, one
3.5
yes, what 3.5 is even long. You have people, for some 6 months they have resigned. I mean, on that same day, somebody had said that there was a particular guy, they didn't even know who he was. Apparently, he happens to be a son of a very top politician.
years.
They were not at the organization was not aware. And then, they had a conversation and the managing director was actually cussing at him.
Oh.
And it was during his preparation period. Guess what he
Join
did?
is
He went to HR. Yes,
okay.
this gentle, like the MD cursed at him. He was barely how many months in, and the man came and lost his cool, cursed at him. And this new guy walks straight to the HR and resigns on the spot and walks away.
Yeah. I don't,
But I mean, before we move deep and deep into this, um, company culture, corporate culture,
Mhm.
right? I see that you have a very interesting mix in your background, right?
Yes,
It's agricultural economics, it's finance,
yes, right.
you've been in the power sector, you've done a bit of medicine.
Mhm.
How did you get into all of these spaces
Very good.
to start?
Very good. It's very interesting. I think I had a conversation chatting with another business owner friend of mine 2, 3 days ago. And we're talking about Sunrise Business Partners, and we're working with medical doctors in the US. And he was like, "So do you have a medical background?" And I was like, "No, no, no, I don't." and and even my time in the energy sector, which I absolutely adored, I'm not an engineer. I did not study any elect anything, electrical engineering, electrical. I didn't. But one of the things I think that has been my biggest strength is my ability to analyze things, and I
Mm,
think my ability to think critically and analyze things, and I think that cuts across all industries because regardless of what you're doing or the field you're playing
yes,
in, you need to be able to articulate oftentimes on the spot and oftentimes
yeah,
at the goal. And some industries are more fast paced than others. And I think that's
yes,
what finance really grounded me in because it's a very demanding industry. And I think
yeah.
if you can survive in the finance world, I think you would do okay at the very least in most fields,
Okay.
and there's a small saying, just if I jump back to the question, there's a small saying in the financial services world that in your first 2 years of working, you're basically working half days. And by half days, I don't mean 9 to noon. I mean half of your day is spent at the office. So whether it's 66, 77, you're working 12-hour days. Not because of a company
Mm.
thing, just because the learning curve is so steep.
Yeah, it's intense.
Several licensing exams, CFP, CFA, CF, everything at the same time you're working. So doing that, coming from that background, it was like most challenges of what most people will see challenging. It didn't really phase me because I'm like, well, if I came from a world where we're doing half days, like, what's 10 hour shifts or what's doesn't really phase me. But I think one of the things that really cuts across all industry has been that ability to think and and ability to analyze and ability to think critically. That's been my biggest advantage.
Fantastic. And just before we came on the call, we're talking along this line now. Somebody then sees you working and they're wondering, look, can't you see Toluwani? He's working really. I am wondering, excuse me, do you know where I've come from? Do you? Do you? anyways, anyways, so what were the things that you observed while working in these different sectors? What 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 were the things that made these different sectors tick? I mean, you had highlighted, working in the finance sector and how it can be really
Mhm.
intense because you're studying
Mhm.
and learning on the job at the same time. So, what were the
So,
few nuances that you noticed that caught your attention?
absolutely. I think I'm glad you say that because I mentioned two elements. The third one is people.
Hmm.
People exist in every industry, even the robotics and tech field. It's human beings that make the robots. Makes sense to understand the human beings. And I think that was one of the big things for me because my understanding of people started to develop through that whole phase. And
Hmm.
regardless of the industry I was in or the job or profession I found myself in, I was working with, for, and towards other human beings. So one of the things I realized every industry has its own little nuance, but fundamentally there's some things that are just concrete the same, which is basically one of which is trust. Trust is the bedrock for every single thing, whether it's the finance field, whether in the cases where we used to work in what I'll call like chain of operations, or you can call it division of labor. Basically, you solve this
Mm.
piece of the financial plan, I solve this piece of the financial plan, and in my piece, I'm pulling data from your piece. There has to be some level of trust for me to say, okay, the analysis or the reports Jadisola did is worthy. I can count on it, and I can use it to run my own analysis.
Toluwani, can you hear me?
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me? I can hear
Okay,
you. Can you
Toluwani,
hear
can
me?
you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so we lost you for a bit. No thanks to the network. But I mean, can you backtrack? And you're talking about the place of people, act of people. So can you start from that point up onto?
Correct. Absolutely. So one of the things I was saying was, regardless of the industry I find myself in, one of the things that's just been fundamental is people. It's human beings. Put aside my analytical or critical thinking ability, it's human beings. Regardless of the industry, even the robotics field that they're designing all these fancy little robots and Optimus and Tesla doing the amazing things they're doing, kudos to them. It's human beings that make it. And if you don't
Mm,
agree, it's human beings that make the robots that make the robots. In the end, it still traces down to a person. So understanding of people goes an incredibly long way, regardless of the industry. And I think that's been one thing that has been a core strength for me. Just understanding different people, understanding different nuances in human beings and our thinking. And one of the bedrock behind every single industry has been trust. People need to know that they trust you. People need to know to trust you. People need to understand you beyond the work you do, because to be honest, anybody can produce anything with the level
mm,
of knowledge that we have right now as a society, AI
mm-hmm,
and seek and all the different innovations that are going out there. It's not easy to prove or show knowledge. It's not, sorry, it's not
mm,
difficult to show knowledge. It isn't. Just a simple AI query and everything will come out. But who are you as a person? Can I trust this individual? And that was one of the things I started to just notice across every industry. In finance, it was either we used to work in what I'll call like you can call it division of labor, but it was like a chain of operations. So I did maybe the first level of analysis that the next colleague used for his financial plan, that this next colleague used to create the data, the dashboard, and then this next colleague used to present. Like there has to be some level of trust between each level for me to know, okay, Tolu's report is correct, so I can use it for my analysis. This person's analysis is correct, so I could use it for my dashboard. That trust cuts across all fields. In the energy sector, it's the exact same thing. In medical sector, it's the exact same thing. The doctor walks into the room after the medical assistants have done the prepping and some preliminary analysis. If there's no trust, or that doctor or madam doctor will have to start doing the whole thing entirely again, which is heavily inefficient, and we can't progress as a society, we can't progress as a company. So that's been one thing that just stems across every single field.
fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, company culture.
Mhm.
Can you cite different examples? Maybe an experience that you had, or an experience that somebody else had that piqued your interest in company culture?
Very good. I'm glad you're saying this. And I can't help but think of Stephanie and Scott Harris. I worked with a company, S. Harris Financial Group. That was when I was in the finance sector. Absolutely incredible people. Even long after I've left the company, they're still mentors to me. I love and adore them to my bone. And one of the things I really learned from them, one of the things I saw, like my love for them is not just fluff. Oh, I like my boss. So it's not that. Actually, it's not even emotion. Let's start with that. It's based on deep principle. And one of the fundamental principles that I've seen in the life of Stephanie Harris is that she
Mm,
led by example. She did
mm,
the things that she told you to do. if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
It's the reason why I could afford to work 12-hour days and be at peace. There's people who worked, long hours and they're all grumpy and sad and everything. That wasn't the case for me. I love my job. I loved every bit of it. The reason why say it that way, which we'll talk about that maybe later in the interview, discontent for job actually has nothing to do with the hours worked. But we'll talk about that later. Yeah, it doesn't. Because there are people who work 8 hours a day and hate it to their bones. So it can't be the hours. So, anyways, there were times where I'll come in maybe on a Saturday and want to punch out some things, do some plans, and she's in the office. And there were times where we stayed late and she was there and she come across, hey, how's it going? How's the plan coming along? Where are we? What do you need? And for me, that was the most comforting thing because I can't help but think of the boat. There's an image that's coming to my mind of the boss sitting at the back of the boat or standing at the front of the boat shouting, everybody row, to a leader rowing along with people and shouting, everybody row. And that was Stephanie. We had pinch points where we were going through tax season. Tax season was just a very busy time of the year because people needed financial reports to file their taxes, everything like that. This was in the US, and tax season is a very bigger deal over there. And also at the end of the year, because they wanted all their finances to be in order. So during those major pain points, she was there. They were there. And one of the things that my bosses, they were both, there was a husband and wife that ran the business. Sometimes Scott would text everybody, hey, what do you want for breakfast? And he'll get everybody breakfast because he knows we're putting in the work. So for me, that's one of the things I found deep meaning in the work, but also the people who I worked with were just incredible. And that was where the flickers, if you will, of this understanding of people, which then developed into organizational culture. That was where the ignition started to light. And over the last 4 or 5 years, life situation circumstance have basically fanned that flame into this blazing fire that it is right now.
Wow. Bless the hearts of Stephanie.
Yeah,
I mean that's a beautiful place to work in. By the way, if you're on YouTube, please let us know in the comments, and of course, if you're on LinkedIn at Jade Solade, let us know in the comments as well. Let us know your name and where you're watching us from. It would be nice to connect with you. It would be nice to know how this conversation is impacting you. It's very important to us. So yeah, I mean, I loved that story, and of course, the analogy that you just gave, where of a boss and a leader. The boss is the one that sits on the back and is like, people should move. But there's the
yeah,
leader who is also pulling alongside to say, this is how we're gonna do it. He's, like you rightly stated, leading by example.
absolutely.
And it's very important. Now, having walked in that terrain, have you had to walk in any other environment aside from your initial experience of um, what an organization is like, and was there any similarity or was there any wide gap between your first experience of work and your other experience of work, and what were the things that came up straight to you and you're like, okay, all right, hold up, yeah.
Let, lots of thoughts come to mind. I'll cherry pick. Yeah. So I will say this: no organization is perfect. Let's lay that out there. No organization is perfect. But also a caveat to that is no organization is supposed to be perfect. Because to
Mm,
be honest, you being perfect or perfection actually indicates death. It indicates no growth. You're not improving, which that's is actually a very bad thing.
mm,
So despite sometimes companies want to be perfect, it's not a very good place to be. As long as we are better today than we were yesterday, I call that a win. So with that in mind, I've interacted with several different organizations, whether I was working with them or doing work for them, maybe independent. Because I also did some things in the eye doctor space before I went into the energy sector, but it was very brief. It's not on my resume. But one of the things that I think cuts across different sectors, some not as ideal, I would say that. There's some things that I feel like some bosses in the past could have done a little bit better. One of which is the aspect of leading by example, because you know people might not talk, but it's very apparent, and I would not name any names, but, but it doesn't go well when you tell your team, hey, do XYZ or do X ABC, and then you go do what you want to do. Like now, the subordinates will not say anything, and we may not even say anything to each other about you. But we're not 2 years old. We're not foolish. We have a brain and we can think, and we realize this is not right. So I've experienced that in the past where I've had bosses tell me, hey, we need to do this and we need to do that, and we do this, and then they go do whatever they want to do. Or rather, there's an
Mhm.
issue and you tell me like a day before it's due. So I have to then spend all night working on the issue for an issue you were aware of 2 weeks ago. It's like, come on now. Like, yes, I will get it done. I will pull through and get the stuff done because it's just who I am. And thankfully, I had an amazing team at most companies that I've worked with. But I could have at least known 5 days before now. It would have helped.
Yeah.
So that's on that front of things. Now, on the other side of where I would say most companies have done well and have been good, also just I've also had bosses who are understanding, because we're humans, we fall ill, we have different things, and I've had not my greatest of days. I think after I moved back to Nigeria, there was a period of me just kind of adjusting to the 6 hours in traffic every day, to the
Tell me
Lagos
about it.
to the Lagos Wahala and everything, which I love, by the way. I love this country to my bone. Anyways, and there were moments where why are you laughing? You don't like your country? Man, I like my country. Anyways, there were moments where we'll talk about it. There were moments where, let's say, I was not feeling my best because I have had a long evening because VI was what VI was, or third Milan, especially during that construction. And I'm texting my boss or whoever, hey, I'm still working on XYZ. I'm actually not done with it yet. I'll try and power through it this morning once I get to the office so that we can then have it ready for the presentation by 11. He's like, no, no problems, no problems. What would you need help with? Can I do this? And it's a little kind gesture, but it just shows, okay, he cares about me more than just the results. So I've had both.
As from where I stand, you seem like you've had really nice bosses. From where I stand, you seem to have really nice bosses because the common narrative for people that I've had to interact with, right? And my personal experience, I said no. Okay, so most of the general narrative that I've had to experience, or most of the narratives that I've had to experience, I've had people who had very very nasty bosses. They're, oh my god, not nasty,
Yes, I would have
nasty.
to say
And
that.
I mean,
I would,
bosses who would cuss at employees, use derogatory statements. I mean, I remember working in an organization. It was my first day.
mhm.
Like the meme on Instagram, I just arrived. I just got into the organization. It was my first day. And then, I mean, I after the briefing, I'd walked out on the corridor, and then one of the directors had seen me. And then she sizes me up and she goes, "You don't look like a member of staff of this organization." I say, "Ha." Is your place for me?
I used
And
to.
I'm like, in my head, I'm like, wait, it's the one. Who- Is he know what I'm gonna wear? Like, you didn't give me a dress code. I didn't know we had a uniform as as employees. Like, why? What's all this? And it made me overly conscious. I
Yeah.
worked on the unnecessary fear. I wasn't sure of what I was able to deliver, and then it took me a while to, you know, flow with the way things were done. Thankfully, the person I was assigned to, because they're like two people. You have to work with a much more senior person to
Mm-hmm.
take you through the process of how the organization works. And then the person was like, "Oh, don't worry, don't worry. That's how this person is. Don't worry, don't worry. Just focus on the actual work." And I've had people whose self-esteem
Correct.
that was already standing on that was hanging on a very thin thread shatter because someone lacked emotional intelligence
Yeah.
or empathy,
Yeah.
as the word is. So in in a very simple way, I like it because a lot of people say company culture, company culture. Definitely, if we go by the definition of what culture is, it's literally the way people live, their way of
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes is represented in the outfits they wear, the language they speak, their
Correct.
customs and their traditions. But from where you stand, what really is company culture or corporate culture?
So I can give you the fancy definition, which would,
Give me the fans and the
but it won't. It
and
doesn't
the
really
street.
have much value. The real thing is company culture is essentially the way people do things. Period. Now,
Hmm.
the meaning of way can be extrapolated, and we can have a separate conversation about it. That's a simple and, in fact, to me, meaningful conversation, meaningful definition. Dictionary definition will tell you company culture is a host of systems and beliefs and thinking pattern that a company abides by. Great. What does it mean? What I said earlier, it's basically the way people do things, is the way people
Yeah.
in an organization do what they do. Not necessarily the thing that they are doing. I don't care too much about that. But the process and the way in which they do that thing, that's what company culture is.
Hmm. Fantastic. So, if okay, let's say a leader is watching this video.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are the things that the little overlooked signs that a leader needs to watch out for to check the temperature of the culture of the organization? Or what are the things that have been overlooked that tell signs that there's something wrong with the culture in this place?
Right. So I would start off by saying, first off, it's a daily commitment. Like
Hmm.
there should be a constant check on the organizational culture or the organizational health. Even my own company, like I said, nobody's perfect. Like this, the goal is not to be perfect because some people also use that as an excuse not to try at all. No, the goal is
Mm-hmm.
the goal is simply progress. If we can be better tomorrow than we are today, then great, it's a win. And I was just spending time with my team a day ago or 2 days ago, and reiterating the core values of the company. And we took time in coming up with our core values because we didn't want we didn't want to cherry pick values. We wanted it to be innate. So when we started the company, there was no core values. There was none. Because it doesn't make any sense to me to go and pick values that is not core and then call it core values. No, that's not core values. Let the values come out of what is being exhibited, and then we can say, based on this, this is core to us. And at that point, it's not
Mm-hmm.
talk. But with that in mind, one of the things I would say organizations should do or leaders should do is first off understanding that this is a daily act, this is a daily commitment. And they first off need to clarify, why do they exist as a company? This whole thing of organizational culture and company culture is a very introspective exercise. It starts with you, the founder, or you, the leader, first off knowing why you're doing what you're doing, and that being very clear, like there's no question in your mind at all about that. You being able to clarify it, you being able to extrapolate it before you can then go distribute it.
Hmm.
So that's why I would say most people need to start, because oftentimes people go into business and tend to focus on money. And I'm not saying you shouldn't make money. I had a
One is
conversation.
good.
It is good when it's used for the right thing. I think of money. Money is like the fuel in a car.
Hmm.
It's what gets you to. If you're traveling, let's say we were going to Ibadan, we're
To the
doing a road trip.
destination.
Me, you, and some other friends were road trip into, let's say, Abeokuta. I'm from Abeokuta, Egbaman,
Mm.
although my mom is
Oh,
Yoruba.
nice.
We were going to Abeokuta and we filled up our tank. We left from Lekki. We were going to Abeokuta. We filled up our tank. The focus is what? What's the focus of we going together? What would you say the focus is of our trip? It's to get to Abeokuta.
Well, definitely to get a Bogota.
Get to Abeokuta. That's the goal. Now, that's where most businesses start. But along the way, from we being focused on destination, we start being focused on the fuel tank. Where is the gauge? Like, no, that's not the
Hmm.
purpose of the existence. The purpose of the existence is to get to where we're going. The money just, or the
To
fuel
get
in this
there.
case, just helps us get there. The fuel and the money
Hmm.
is not the goal, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with this young lady, who's also in the consulting space, but she focused more on the analytical and quantitative area, which I'm fine with. Like I said, I have a finance background. And we were chatting about business, and I think she said something about, or I asked her, why do businesses exist? And she was like, to make profits, to generate revenue. I was like, I don't think I agree with that. I don't think that's the reason why. Because if that's the case, then business and 419, there's no difference then. Because it's true
Wait,
now.
what?
No, it is true. Now, one is legal. Because 419,
Hmm.
it's what they do. They exist to steal money and get money and do schemes and make money.
Mm-hmm.
If the sole reason for the existence of your company is money, it's scarily close to a Ponzi scheme, which I would hope not too many companies base the foundation of their company on money. Like I said, I'm not saying you
Hmm.
should make money. Sunrise is going to make a lot of money, and that's how we're going to do that. But that's just a byproduct of where we're going. It's the fuel in the car. It's not the destination. So I will start off by the founders, the head of the organization, knowing really why they exist, why the businesses exist, what it stands for, what it's been put on the earth to do. And then from that
Hmm.
point, extrapolate it to the team. And I will
Hmm.
emphasize over communicate
Communication.
importance. Not just communication, over communication. This is not the first time my team is hearing about core values and we've rolled out the document, but I needed to still iterate. It was a side conversation. Came in, was about to hop on an hour meeting. I was talking to one of the young man here. I was like, hey, what's the core values? Da, da, da. And I started to talk about how it's laid out and which one of them connects to each other, which our core values
Mm-hmm.
is integrity, collaboration. Collaboration is actually the second. Integrity, and I'm blanking on it. Integrity, collaboration, innovation, and impact. And talking about how each one of them are connected because the you being integral, you being a person of integrity.
Integrity. Being a
Thank
person
you.
of integrity.
Living on my words. You being a person of integrity, I just remember the second one, excellence. You being a person of integrity is what then makes you perform at excellence because excellence for me is not necessarily what you deliver, it's more so who you are and how you deliver what you deliver. And from that point of integrity and excellence, then you can collaborate and work with a team and work with each other. And the whole purpose of your collaboration should be to produce something, should produce innovation and produce ideas, be it product or system or ways or processes, but innovation that creates something. And the fundamental reason for your creation of anything is to have impact. If it doesn't have impact, then there's very little use of it. I'm polishing my words, and it's useless if I'm being plain.
Hmm.
So that's sunrise. That is our own standard. That is what we live by. And I think most more businesses need to know why they exist, start from there, which most people can tell you about what they do. Oh, we make XYZ, and this barrel it uses ink from India. I don't know, I'm making this up. It uses ink from India and plastic from France and is polished with the most. That's all what. That's what. Some people can tell you how. Oh, we use XYZ technology is innovative technology, it's the same technology that put a man on the moon. But why are you doing what you're doing? And then most people are quiet. So
Crickets.
getting to clarify your why and then extrapolating that to your team and over communicate, because it's only after the seventh time that people actually start to hear you.
All right, thank you. Now I have this question,
Go
right?
for
Because
it.
you thought about having a destination, and given the analogy that you gave, is
Hmm.
it possible for a business leader to build a business based on trauma?
Yes, yes, see, absolutely. And this is just so you know, there are a lot of companies that run with a terrible organizational health, and they're going to make billions of dollars. Amazon is one of them. No,
No way.
I'm going to be
why?
shy.
Why do you say so? Well, why did you pick that out?
Oh, Amazon doesn't have a
Why?
very. They're not. Oh, everybody knows.
Can you?
Very cutthroat in terms of
Okay.
deliverable and getting your stuff done, and that's why you see the high turnover rate they've had, and they don't mind it, and they're fine with it. And hey, the company is making billions of dollars, and they're going to keep doing that as long as time exists. So now I don't advise the way they're doing it, and I think there's a better route. But to say whether or not you make money, I don't know. You make 419s make money now. Let's leave that. You will make a ton.
Can we leave this one that guys out of this conversation? Anyways, please
You will
continue.
make a ton of money, and the people who choose to run their
Mm,
company on trauma, whether it's trauma from their own lives based on past, or it's just also what they chose, which that happens. I believe in that there are two kind of choices. It's conscious and unconscious decision,
mm,
and whether we like it or not, by
mm-hmm.
choosing one or the other. So a business leader, a founder, an owner, a manager choosing to run the company on trauma and fear, yeah, the company would generate revenue, would make money, won't be ideal, and I would say the company would do extremely better if it had a better health, if it maintained greater health. It's like a human being. I'll give you a typical small example here. A human being who is, you know, yeah, because organization, I liken it to a person. A human being who's delivering and working their behind off, working crazy hours, and maybe they're not sleeping much.
Mm,
Will they perform? Of course, they will perform. They will get some things done. Maybe they're eating unhealthy. Would they show up to work? Yes. They'll be so much better if they, to some extent, manage their stress levels, were eating a little bit healthy, mixed in
yeah.
some exercise. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
not me saying, oh, you have to sleep 8 hours every night. I'm not the one that will tell you that, because I don't do that. I don't think I've done it in the last, I don't know how many months. So I'm not going to come and lie to you like, oh, you should treat your employees and this. No. I had a friend of mine who was telling me about her in her office that everybody leaves by 5:30 and it's mandatory. I'm like, eh, all right. My guys are here to like 6:30, sometimes 7, depending on the project we're working on. Because it's not some rigid, oh, we only work 8 hours a day, so our company culture is healthy. It's like, no, it's not that. It's not that robotic or rigid. Because if it is that, then anybody can do it. It's very simple. So yes, it is. It's possible to build an organization on trauma, on anything you choose. It's just not advisable.
Okay, so that being said, right? There are instances where I've heard people say their bosses think, oh, our culture is great. We have amazing, impeccable corporate culture. But the
Yes.
employees are like, I don't, sir, is it the same organization? I don't really think it's the same organization we're talking about. Like in that instance, where did the disconnect start? Plus, there are instances where they hire an external person to come and lead the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then this external person brings their own culture from where they're coming from
Mm-hmm.
and then impose it in this current culture. So how,
Mm-mm.
like,
Yeah.
what what is the ticking time bomb that is being formed in that moment? Because I've had to experience both worlds, where
Very
first
good.
and foremost, the people that are capable in the organization,
Uh-huh.
they feel they don't feel seen. They feel like,
Mm.
oh, if you can hire. And then there's also now the problem of, you bring someone that seems to be superior, but they don't then maintain paying the person's salary. So they cut some other people's salary to maintain the salary of this new person.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot of messy. So, like, first and foremost, where is the gap in that in the instance where they have to bring an internal person? Secondly, bringing this internal person that brings their own toxic culture into this current place, and people that are in the organization feeling not seen and not heard. How do you navigate that?
This is very good questions you're asking, honestly. And these are the kind of questions I love because the truth is, I don't like or define this one or list the types of, like, you could look that up. You don't need to ask that. So very good question you're asking here. I think to answer your
Thank you.
question, Lady Jade, if you and I were having a conversation or we met, which we have met, but if we met again or we're together again, which I hope it's soon, and let's say I was licking ice cream. Let's just use that for example, and I have ice cream on my nose, and I'm like, hey, how are you
Hmm.
doing? I'm looking good, right? And like, no, I think you have ice cream on your nose. And you're like, no, 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 I don't have ice cream on my nose. And you're like, no, I think you have. I can see the crumbs of biscuits that you ate. And I'm like, no, I don't. How foolish does that sound?
I will leave you because I don't deal with foolishness. I'm very impulsive to foolishness.
And I'm not saying business leaders are foolish. Please don't hear what I'm not saying.
No, no,
But
definitely.
the thing is, we can't see our face.
Hmm.
That's the truth. We can't see our face. So we need other people to come tell us what our face looks like. So if you have a business leader who is talking about the culture and it's not matching what the people say, I question, or I really do question, because and it's easy for us to fall into that trap. Please realize I said us. Like, this is not me pointing fingers. I'm in the same boat. Like I said, it's a daily thing. It's a daily check. No one is perfect. We're all progressing. I am in the same boat because the culture of sunrise, the true litmus test, it comes from the employees, not
Hmm.
from me. I
Hmm.
can tell. In fact, I will speak highly of the company in some cases, although I'm a fairly honest individual and I can be very objective when it's necessary. But you,
Mm-hmm.
as Mr. CEO, Mr. Founder, of course, you're going to say the company, to some extent, everything is good and holly jolly. Yes. In fact, I would expect you to, because you have to have some level of belief in your organization. But the true state of the company is determined by the team, especially those on the front line.
Hmm.
And I emphasize those on the front line because, especially for some of the large conglomerates, you hear, I'm not going to mention any banks or any
Please don't
names,
mention names, please. Thank you. I don't even come from
but let's just say you have a particular bank and they're talking about, oh, we're customer first, we're customer focused, Mr. CEO, Madam CEO. I can see the look on your face. Wait for it. And in my head, I'm like, Oga CEO, Madam CEO, when was the last time you spoke with a customer?
Hmm.
So you can't tell me you're a customer first. I'm not saying anything is wrong with being, in fact, we're not customer first. The people who you interact with are your execs or leaders, whatever. The people who do interact with the customers are the ones on the front
Hmm.
line. So to a large extent, the world sees the company culture from those on the front line. So for you to assess the company culture, you should ask those on the front line.
Hmm.
That's the way it goes.
Wow.
That's part one of your question. Part two is I'm not a fan of. Uh oh.
Continue. We're
Okay.
good. Just continue.
Part two is I'm not a fan of, to some extent, bringing someone in from outside, especially if it's not in collaboration with the leaders, because we're highly in tune animals. Humans, we're very highly in tune animals, and we can smell fluff from a distance. We know what is fake, what is real. We may not say anything, but we know when this is another gimmick or another trick. We know. We're just That's the way intuition is wired within human beings. It's the reason why, and it's also in. That's why I said in tune animals. It's the reason why you see gazelles. I grew up watching a lot of Nat Geo Wild or Animal Planet. I know some people enjoy it, but there are lessons from the animal kingdom that we can learn as humans. Is the reason
Mm,
why gazelles grazing and they hear a ruffle in the grass and everybody goes,
mm,
something is not right. They can't really tell, but everybody's on high alert. And the moment they see the lion, they take off. That's the way human beings are in the organization. Now, we're not doing on our work day, but inside of us, like, okay, you bring in some consultants after 2 years of the terrible culture, and then you all rallying the people. Oh, we're going to change, and we're going. It's like, okay, everybody can see through the fluff, and say, all right, let's go through these 2 weeks and then go back to what we used to be. You know, but true organizational change starts from within. It starts from the leaders before it then spreads out. Because if it doesn't start from within, if it's external, it's just a matter of time. It will fade away.
mm,
And I'm not saying external reinforcement is not important. It is important. But that fire has to start from within. It has to start with, first off, and this is a whole different conversation on organizational culture transformation.
mm,
First off, starts with we as leaders recognizing the current state of the culture and calling it out for what it is. And it's the reason why I'm saying I'm fairly objective, because last month I had different phrases for it. Soul check, people call it different things, but a
yeah.
really good check on myself. Like, what are we doing here? This is not right. And there was just a lot of, at the time, sloppiness in the organization. And for me, it's not me to point out, oh, this guy is doing this. It's me, because there's something in me that accommodates such behavior. And I had to really put my foot down on me first, changing and transforming me before I can then hold the team accountable. And we went through that whole process, and it was one of the most beautiful processes and had immense impact on the team. But change and transformation, or at least true change and transformation, always and should always start from within.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Now, whilst you were speaking, I'm reminded of something that Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Atlantic, had said that
Mhm.
the way he was able to improve customer experience was to take good care of his employees, because the first people that the customers interact with are the
Correct.
employees.
That's
And
it.
when you treat your employees well, your customers will have a good experience.
Yes, they will.
Right. Now, um, I have had an experience, working with an organization whereby they have KPIs
That's
and they expect you to deliver on this, that. But then you realize that no trainings have been provided.
yes.
And you're like, and then there's I'm not a professional. Why don't you train yourself? I'm like, I'm not on top. From where? From which allowance? Now, this is not to underestimate.
No.
I'd like to rephrase that, because understanding that even the income bracket of certain professionals are not that substantial, and some of these
True.
trainings sometimes it takes a while for them to be able to pay or sponsor for these trainings. And there are
Hmm.
times where some people would usually say, oh, why should I train people when they would eventually leave? and then you then realize that people are not working, and then there's a complaint that you're not meeting up to your KPI. And I'm like, train, if you want me to do this, train me. And there are some that they even go out of their way to even train themselves, and still they're underappreciated, but they find themselves in the dilemma or the web of politicking or politicking in the office. So
Yeah.
like how do we navigate that? How is it important for business leaders to train their staff? Because the truth is, whether or not they leave or they stay, trainings are important. Because where they were coming from, they've also trained to a certain extent for you to find them hireable. So, what
Correct.
is your take on trainings, the frequency of trainings, how these trainings can then be demanded for
Right.
to show as results in the quality of work being delivered on?
Yes. Very good question. Very good question. And your question is on fire today. Very good question.
Thank you. It's
And
always on fire.
I love that. I think to really understand this, it's one of the things that we need to see. We need to see from the perspective of it's about the company. It's about the success of the company. We're all here, leader, manager, subordinate, employee on the floor or in the office. Everybody's here to see this thing succeed. And let's do away with our own individual interests, desires, and passion. We're all here to see
Hmm.
this thing succeed. The moment we can see that and have that be our starting point, then it removes the fact of, oh, I'm training this person to leave. Because in reality, me training Mr. XYZ or Auntie ABC enables them to do their job better. And if they do their job better, then success to me. Now, whether or not they eventually leave, I have zero control over that.
Hmm.
As one of my bosses, former bosses said, which I fully agree with, was the point where people were, I don't know whether it was salary query, which people were talking about, they're not being paid enough, which nobody can be paid enough. That's a conversation for another day. Even the business, if the business owner pays themselves what they deem as enough, the business will die. So let's just leave that part as let's leave that part aside, and we
Oh,
can
dear.
talk about that some other time. But and he said something during that town hall meeting, and he was saying, let's just be clear, nobody will be here forever. And I was like, huh,
Hmm.
I've never heard such brute reality or frank statement like that. It's like nobody's going to be here forever. And he said one of the most funny things I've ever heard. He said there are only three options. Three. It's either you resign, you move on, you're fired, or you die. And I was like, that is so true. And it's true. Nobody is going to be at the company for including the owner. Is either you start something else, the company is acquired, you move on to something else, or who knows, the good Lord calls you home. But nobody is going to be there forever. And I think the moment you understand that, you can dispel this reality of, oh, they would leave, whether you like it or not, they will eventually leave sooner or later. Now, I also understand it's painful to spend hundreds of thousands of naira or dollars to train employees only for them to leave. I know that was a common frustration for Dangote at the time, where it takes employees, flies them across outside the country, do this detailed training, and they come back, and the next thing they're out. And I understand that, and it's not easy. I think one thing that some companies are starting to implement, depending on whether it's training or some kind of a gifting, they pay to the bond. By bond, in the sense that the employees are going to be here for X amount of time based on this benefit that they're giving them. I see companies do that with when they're giving their managers cars. So the manager has to be at the company for however long till the car is supposedly paid off, so that they don't just get the car and then leave. Which I understand that. And Now, I will also say companies should be a bit careful not to overuse the bond thing because then it diminishes trust to some extent. Because
Hmm.
if every single thing or every single benefit, I have to take something from you, you have to sign this. At some point, I won't want to take anything, or rather, the moment my bond ends, I'm out because the only thing that kept me there was a bond.
It's the bond.
So it's not it's not it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's very nuanced, but I think more than anything is we starting off with the very reason why everyone is here is for the sole success of the business. Period. And all your skills, talent, abilities, desires, vision, mission, aspiration all feeds into that. And if it doesn't, then maybe you shouldn't be here.
Hmm. Wow. I honestly love that statement that you said when you said that whether we know it or not, we all will not be here forever. And
No,
I believe that that statement gives a sense of responsibility and ownership to say,
right.
Why don't I just make the best of it whilst I'm still here?" And but there was a clause you didn't even include. There's a place of people jack buying.
Yes, yes, actually.
So people may happily relocate or they get sacked, or they resign, or they like one of my friends would say they change terrestrial location. Oh, God, I beg.
Extra location. I like that.
you know.
I'll steal that one. I'll steal that one.
Anyways, so I mean, because we're almost hitting the 1 hour mark now for very strong culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is the role of what's the role of company and employee vision alignment?
Very good.
What role does that play, and how would it affect the company culture, the long one? That's employee and company vision alignment.
Very good. Absolutely. Very, very good. I'll tell
Thank
you
you.
this. Let me give you a small example here. Just a very small example. Imagine imagine I was working with an organization that believed in saving dogs. I just use dogs because I like dogs. Believed in saving dogs and caring for dogs and let's call it Pops of Lagos.org. I don't know. Pops of Lagos organization and they are caring for puppies or whatever the case may be. And me as an employee work there. I hate dogs. In fact, I don't like pets at all. I think dogs are very nasty. They are very foolish, which I don't think that's the case because I love my puppies. I have two lasses at home. They're the cutest things ever. They small like this and they jump on you. Anyways, and me as an employee, I don't like dogs. In fact, I don't like any pets. I'm very brash with animals, but I would, I would, I want the job, or rather, I want the money. So I go and take the job. How
Hmm.
long do you think I'll last there?
Hmm.
Answer is not very long. And even if I do, it'll be such a miserable time there. Miserable for me, but also miserable for the company because there's no buying. And that's the fundamental thing for success. There has to be buying. There's no buying, there's no belief, there's no alignment of vision. It's the reason
Hmm.
why I won't work with certain organizations. Nothing against the organization. It's just not who I am. We don't believe in the same thing, which is fine. Everybody should believe what they believe, and in fact, stand for what they believe, regardless of whether it's good, right, or wrong. I'm not in a position to say that, but believe it wholeheartedly because you attract those who believe what you believe, and you repel those who don't believe what you believe, which is completely fine. But that alignment is so fundamentally important because that's how success can brew. That's how we can go far and long. That's it's the reason why, to go back to my finance days, it's the reason why I'm willing to be in the office sometimes 7 p.m. because I believe in the aspect of contributing to helping a family send their kid to college, a family buy their first house, a family order their finances, or seeing the transition of a business from one generation to another generation and doing estate planning. Like that is fundamentally important to who I am. So my vision aligns with the company's vision. So I'm willing to give whatever it takes, blood, sweat, or tears, and everything in between, to see the success of the company. Because in the success of the company, it's also my success. But when that doesn't exist,
Fantastic. Hmm.
gaps.
I mean, that's very that is very brilliant because a lot of times you see a lot of people take on jobs for the money.
True.
And then after a while, they start to act out, and they themselves
Yeah.
are not observant of the patterns that they are exhibiting, and and they just like, ah, where's my boss? That you don't like the job, you're just there for the money, and it's very very, important. By the way, we've hit the 1 hour mark, right, and we'll start to wrap things up really quickly. Now, that being said, how can employees because it's really tricky, especially for the terrain that we're in, because I've had people who cannot have sincere conversations without
Oh
some
yeah.
egos being bruised.
Mm.
And then there's the mindset of soldier go, soldier come, I can fire and hire at will. But one thing I've also realized is that there are some soldiers that when you hire them, you cannot get that stuff. You can't get that same stuff that they are made of. You can't get that. It's
No.
they're a rare breed.
Correct.
And once those kind of people or employees leave, you just realize that some leaders subconsciously want to make the ones that are left, they want to mold them in the same cast or the person that left, just like winning
Correct.
over an ex that you never got over. Right? So
Yeah.
how, I mean, even though, like you are rightly stated, that there's some that at some point they have to resign,
Mm-hmm.
how can leaders, business leaders, work with the uniqueness of their employees without breaking them or making them who they are not?
Very good. Yeah, I love this question because it gets me to reflect on being on both sides of the table, being an
Hmm.
employee and being an employer. And it's such a very lovely question. And one of the things I've realized over studies and research and just life really, and it's something that we abide by fundamentally at Sunrise, is we're tough on ideas but soft on the people. And I think that's the thing that we need to dissociate, like being able to dissociate the idea from the person, which sometimes people find it hard to do, whether them examining the ideas or me presenting the idea. We tend to hold it too tightly. There's something that is oftentimes that's said in the US Marine. The Marine is one of the most high functioning organizations in the world. I mean, they're the ones who descend for Iraq or some of the special ops mission that is like really, really high class. And after every presentation, whether it's a report briefing of a mission, or mission briefing or mission examination, after the presentation is said, whoever is giving the presentation, whoever is giving the presentation says any spares, so spares like fire at it, and it's so important because I want to know my loopholes. I want to know where I'm weak. I want to know my gaps. Not tell me what is nice to comfort me. Any spears, like I want to know that. I had a conversation with another founder friend of mine, and after talking about his product, he's doing amazing things, and he was like, "Give me negative. What's your? I want negative feedback or areas for improvement." Which most people don't start with that. Most people want to know, oh, where am I doing well and where am I doing nice? And of course, I'm not saying affirmation is bad. It's not bad, and some level of encouragement is necessary. But being able to differentiate the idea from the person, and I can clearly state, and this happens here at the office. We're talking about an idea, whether it was Mr. Tolu or whoever in the team. said an idea and we're like, this doesn't really make any sense. Not the person. It has nothing to do with the person. Not that the person is stupid, or we can say this is a absolutely stupid idea. Not the person, and the person doing the critique and the one who presented the idea. First off, need to learn to dissociate the human from the idea, because if that doesn't happen, and we're in a team and somebody says, this idea is absolutely stupid, doesn't make any sense, the person that presented the idea might say, "Are you saying that I am stupid?" And of course, everybody's shoulder gets pumped up, and egos get bruised, and it just doesn't go well. Which is why I said earlier of we need to dissociate. We need to. I don't care what your passions, aspirations, or everything are, who you are. Which that's a very common phrase in Nigeria. Do you know who I am? Anyways, I don't care too much about who you are. Leave that out the door, and well, the sole purpose of our being here is for the success of the company. So if this idea or that idea, regardless of who it came from, doesn't contribute to the success of the idea, then please get rid of it and quick. Doesn't have anything to do with the person. In fact, I have been called out by my own employees, and I encourage them to do that. Not called out that, oh, you're doing this or doing that. That's not the case, because I won't do that to a person. It's like another thing I say is, I don't like the behavior. The behavior and the person are different, which this is a little bit of a complex thinking, which most people can't really dissociate, but it's very important. And for those who can, you will understand what I'm saying. When somebody exhibits certain behaviors, like that behavior was terrible. I hate the behavior. Has nothing to do with you as a person. Of course, that's if you change that
Hmm.
behavior. And if you continue to work in that behavior, then we have a problem. But being able to dissociate the two is so important. And then that's how ease can flow, because then oftentimes what happens in board meetings is Oga, whoever, or some high rank person says an idea that is not so the best, and we all know it's not ideal for the company. But nobody wants to say anything because you know the rest of that story. So all of
God, I beg.
so,
Faces are flashing in my head right now.
so, so,
This nonsensical, ego-driven ass. No, no, no.
correct. So
It's
all of
and
us
it's detrimental to the growth of the organization.
absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. This was something that one of my team members called me out on it. In October, we took on a contract that really strained us, and we're doing some work. So everybody was working like chickens with their head cut off, including me. And it was just a crazy period. And I
Too
think
soon.
this second week of October, one of the team members, she's my executive assistant, and she plays does some business developing. And we're in the office late, and she was just talking and telling me about some things, and all of a sudden she transition, not transition to like, hey, told you you're this and that, not that, but we're just like talking about some of her frustrations, which I encouraged her. And she was, and halfway through, she said, like, to think of it, where are we even going? What's the goal for this month? And I was like, okay, so you dropped the ball. I
Mm,
didn't communicate that from the start of the month because we're just overwhelmed. And for the next
mm,
20 or however long she spoke, I just kept quiet and listened to everything she said. And it's necessary because she was not saying you as an individual are terrible. It's everything she highlighted was for the success of the company. Now, I had to let go of my own ego feelings or whatever, which I've done a good job of putting that to death. I had to let go of that and see to it if what she's saying is fundamentally right, which it was fundamentally right, and is necessary for the success of the company, I will take it. So that's one aspect I think I think is very important. But of course, it starts off if you can't make that separation, then don't even do that. You gotta go to your board meeting and tell says the idea is stupid. Come on, you chop letter.
Yeah,
So
just hold on. Just the door. That's the door. When you go out, don't come back again.
so
Just be great. Don't come back.
so that's the starting point, and we being able to objectively scrutinize ideas, like I said, hard on the ideas, soft on the person. I think to talk about the
Mm.
second one you mentioned, which I'm blanking on because I've so much focused on this one. Can you rephrase what you said at first? You talked about people leaving or something to that extent.
What
Hello?
did you say? Yes, my network was acting out. You said something now.
Yeah, so I was saying regarding the second part of the question, can you rephrase what the question was?
So I was saying that no, I believe you've actually answered the question. Basically,
Okay.
I believe you
Okay.
answered the question. You know, where I talked about leaders not putting people that. I hope you can hear me though.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I was talking about the part where leaders don't try to mold the employees in the cast
Right.
of their star employee who left,
Yes.
because a lot of
Yes.
times, because they are used with that style of delivery, they then try to force every
Mhm.
other person to for I don't know why this statement came to my mind, but Benny like I don't know if you remember that movie from way back, but they can
Which
only
one?
Benny like Beckham.
Ah,
Yeah,
it
Jenzy, don't
rings
worry.
a bell.
Don't cast yourself. It's okay. It's okay. We
Ah.
know what you mean. It's okay. Those that don't know, the OGs know Benny like Beckham. If you don't know Benny like Beckham, you are called Gen Z. You're
Oh my
very Gen Z.
God. Go ahead.
It's okay. So and imagine. So I mean, and I'm glad that illustration came to me. Right, the place of a particular coach who has worked with a David Beckham for a long time, and then there's a
Yeah,
Ronaldo and a Messi, and they're trying to make them like Beckham.
it won't go well.
So in that instance, what as an employee, or if you're an employee, what would you do? Is it safe to walk out, or try to convince a boss that only sees from the lens of Beckham?
Hmm. Hmm. I'll start with answering the question from the employer,
Okay.
because if you can put the top, oftentimes everything is addressed. It's like
Hmm.
having children. I'm not married. I don't have a child. I don't have a child yet, but I have a brother, and no human on earth is the same. Even twins, they're not the same. So it makes no
Mm.
sense on earth or in heaven to treat one like the other. The goal for every sorry,
It's
I
do
just
you
woke
say
up.
that in heaven for me, bro? Are you taking decisions with Jesus in heaven? But it's okay. Please
No, no,
continue.
but it makes, because I mean, let's not go down that route. But everyone is uniquely made, and we all have our own
Yeah,
identities and
definitely.
differences, both
You're
on earth
right.
and in heaven. So therefore, for you
Definitely.
to
You're right.
blanket or envelope a human based on a set standard that you've cooked up in your head,
Yeah.
I don't agree with it. Because even twins, they don't act the same. They're not the same, which I encourage that they shouldn't be the same. Because Taiwo has his own strengths and his own abilities and his own nuances that makes him Taiwo, that he's genetically composed to function as Taiwo. Kende has his or her own components, abilities that make him or her Kende. And the goal for an employer, excuse me, just as it is for a parent, is to make Taiwo be the best Taiwo that Taiwo can be, and Kende be the best Kende that Kende can be. Not Kende be Taiwo and Taiwo be Kende, or something in between. No, it doesn't make it won't go well. It just won't go well. It's like teaching a it's something I heard. If you judge a fish based on its ability to fly, it will grow up thinking it's a failure. But put that fish in water and you see magic. So where
Wow.
is, as an employers, we need to find out what is your own water as a fish, what is your own air as a bird, what is your own tree as a monkey, and then put you in there, and then you can function at your best. Not judging the monkey on its ability to fly and the bird on its ability to swim and the fish whether or not it can climb trees. It won't go well.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you much for that. It's already 1 hour 15 minutes at this point. With these few points of ours, we hope we'll be able to convince and not confuse you. But let me have your final words. I mean, if the leader watching this video right now, what is that one thing that they can quickly implement? Maybe starting from tomorrow, or they can infuse into their company culture to improve the productivity of and the level of delivery of their team.
Very good. I'll respond to your question with a slightly different approach. For all the leaders listening, I would say kudos to you. Well
Mm,
done. The very fact your business exists and is standing is already a success. Well done. I'm not here to come tell you what you should do or what you shouldn't do. Who am I?
mm.
The very fact you have business and you're employing people and giving them livelihood, you deserve some praise. And I commend you greatly. And in fact, it's because of people like you that I'm doing what I'm doing. And I've learned from several business leaders and mentors who have cleared the pathway. And from their failures, I have learned from. So I don't need to fail twice because they've already failed on my behalf.
Mm.
So thank you. Thank you. I think to add to what you could implement and what you could change, there is no one size fits all. No
True.
company is the same. Even if you exist in the same industry or even on the same street, we're all in VI, Adiola or Decon, we're doing finance. It's not the same. And that's where I would want you as a business leader to start from. What distinguishes me from every other finance company?
Hmm.
Why am I put on there? Why do I exist? What is my core purpose, or as I would like to say, my just cause, which is not your mission or your vision. Those things are worthy and they're good to have, but your just cause, like why do you exist beyond the product or the profit and even the people, the entity that is XYZ Limited? Why does it exist? And the moment you can clarify that and fundamentally stand upon that, then every other thing will be based on that. And one of the beautiful things that it does is that you can start to filter because you can know when certain opportunities come, you could say, yeah, this is not who we are. This is not why we're put on there. Even though the check has plenty zeros and commas after it, it'll be a tough decision, but you can say no. And the moment you say no, you're saying yes to another thing. Just as the moment you say yes, you're saying no to other things. So I think that's one of the starting place I would encourage most leaders to start from. Appreciation and gratitude for the process this far, because the very fact you exist is already a victory. You're doing business in Nigeria. That's enough of a challenge. So well done. Then starting with understanding why you exist and why you're put on this earth. And then every other thing would
Thank
stem
you
from
so
there.
much, Toluwa. That literally felt like a love letter. that, felt, I mean, it felt like a love letter, and it also felt like a hug because I understand. I mean, right now, the hearts of some leaders, business leaders rather, is high because his salary week. And for some people, Ogata, Ogata,
And and the reason
which
why it's
which means
important is,
that
and the reason why
yeah,
it's
I mean, for,
important.
for, for people that don't understand that statement, I'm coming to learn it. And for the people that don't understand that statement, it means that whether my boss makes money or not,
Correct. You have to. You have to pay. You have to pay. I agree.
me,
I very much.
I'm very me. But and we had, I mean, this is actually one of my longest episodes so far, but I enjoyed the conversation, a lot of
Really? Wow.
insights yeah, that had been learned, and I believe that business leaders that will stumble on this would be able to pick one or two things from the
Absolutely.
I really, really thank you so much. I really hope you can hear me right.
I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. And kudos to you on the brilliant work you're doing. This is very commendable. And so many getting to glean and learn and
Acting
gain
very
life.
twice.
Loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. So once again, thank you so much, Luani. I have to go now. But you and definitely till we come your way again. Everyone, please have a phenomenal um rest of the week. And of course, once again to the amazing men out there, happy International Men's Day. Thank you for the work that you do. And of course, just like Toluwani, I'm going to reiterate this to all the men, whatever in all the spheres that they play in, well, do amazing work, showing up every day for your long week. Thank you so much. God bless you. Till I come your way again next week, Wednesday. Happy evening. Bye for now.